Hello everyone, it's Ray, and I'm here to report Module 11, Quantitative Methods of Research. At the end of this presentation, you should be able to describe what the quantitative method of research is, know the methods of how to collect data in quantitative method of research, and lastly, to determine whether the quantitative research method is appropriate for you to use. What is the quantitative method of research? Quantitative research, therefore, is explaining phenomena by collecting numerical data that are analyzed using mathematically based methods. The quantitative method of research is by far the easiest one to define and identify because the data this method produces are always numerical in nature and are always done so by using both mathematical and statistical methods. Characteristics of quantitative research. Data is gathered using structured research instruments. Results are dependent on large sample sizes, which has to be a representation of the population. Study can be replicated or repeated. Researcher has a clearly defined research question to which an objective answer is sought. All aspects of the study are carefully designed before data is collected. Data are in the form of numbers and statistics, often arranged in tables, charts, figures, or other non-textual forms. Used to generalize concepts more widely, predict future results, or investigate causal relationships. Tools such as questionnaires or computer software are used to collect numerical data. Goal in conducting quantitative research. Your goal in conducting quantitative research study is to determine the relationship between an independent variable and a dependent or outcome variable within a population. Quantitative research designs are either descriptive or experimental. A descriptive study establishes only associations between variables. An experimental study establishes causality. Quantitative research deals in numbers, logic, and an objective stance. It focuses on numeric and unchanging data and detailed convergent reasoning rather than divergent reasoning. The overarching aim of a quantitative research study is to classify features, count them, and construct statistical models in an attempt to explain what is observed. Major types of quantitative research. Descriptive type of research. In this type of study, subjects are generally measured once. The intention is to only establish associations between variables, and the study may include a sample population of hundreds or thousands of subjects to ensure that a valid estimate of a generalized relationship between variables has been obtained. Quasi-experimental. This research design tests causal hypothesis, it lacks random assignment, and it is used to identify a comparison group that is as similar as possible to the treatment group in terms of baseline characteristics. There are different techniques for creating a valid comparison group such as regression discontinuity design and propensity score matching. Experimental design. This research design includes subjects measured before and after a particular treatment. The sample population may be very small and purposefully chosen, and it is intended to establish causality between variables. Manipulation. Researcher does an experiment to some of the participants involved or included in the research. Control. Researcher adds one or more revisions over an experimental situation. Randomization. Researcher assigns different groups of people at random. Sample and sampling design. When doing your research, you need to decide which data to collect and from whom. A sample is a small part of anything or one of a number, intended to show the quality, style, or nature of the whole. Choosing a sample. The idea behind choosing a sample is to be able to generalize your findings to the whole population, which means that your sample must be representative of a population. In other words, it should contain similar proportions of subgroups as the whole population, and not exclude any particular groups, either by method of sampling or by design, or by who chooses to respond. Second, it should be large enough to give you enough information to avoid errors. It doesn't need to be a specific proportion of your population, but it does need to be at least a certain size so that you know that your answers are likely to be broadly correct. If your sample is not representative, you can introduce bias into the study. If it isn't large enough, the study will be imprecise. Sampling may be random. Every member of the population has an equal chance of being chosen. Systematic. Researchers takes every nth name on their list of population, which should ideally be randomly ordered. Refinements of both systematic and random. Stratified. Researchers divide the population into smaller homogeneous groups called strata, and then takes a random sample from each stratum. Cluster. Designed to address problems of a widespread geographical population by dividing the population into clusters, selecting only 2 or 3 clusters and sampling from within those. Sources of quantitative data. First one, surveys. This method relies on asking the same question in the same way to a large number of people and obtaining a lot of responses. These responses are then analyzed using statistical techniques to obtain information that can be generalized about the whole population. Types of survey. Self-completed surveys can either be web-based or postal. This type of survey is answered by the survey subjects themselves. Postal survey, a type of self-completed survey wherein questions are either printed or written on a piece of paper where the subject must handwrite their answers on. Web-based survey. As the name suggests, this type of self-completed survey is often hosted online. Interviewer-administered surveys. Face-to-face survey. Researcher directly communicates with the subject asking questions regarding the research at hand. Telephone survey consists of cold calling potential respondents through the phone. Survey questions guidelines. Each question or item should only express one idea. It's very easy to overcomplicate. Pair your questions back to make sure that they only cover one idea. If necessary, turn one question into 2. Avoid jargon, abbreviations, and colloquialisms. Use simple language and expressions. Points 2 and 3 are similar, but slightly different. Whenever you write anything, you should make your meaning as plain as possible, but this is even more important in surveys. Word your questions positively. This doesn't mean that you have to be relentlessly enthusiastic. It just means that you should ensure that your questions are worded so that if people feel good about it, they agree with the sentence or question. Avoid leading questions. A leading question is one which points the respondent towards a right answer. Beware of imposing your views on others, however inadvertently. You want to be confident that your respondents have understood the question correctly and all in the same way. You therefore need to use simple language and avoid jargon that may either be not understood or be understood differently by some groups or individuals. Observational research. Observational research is a type of correlational research in which a researcher observes ongoing behavior. It is a social research technique that involves the direct observation of phenomena in their natural setting. Types of observational methods. Controlled observation. Researcher has full control of every aspect of the observation. One example of this type of observation at work was Bandura, Ross, and Ross's Bobo doll experiment, wherein they concluded that children learn social behaviors through observing other people's behaviors. Naturalistic observation. Studying the behavior of participants in their natural surroundings with no control from the researcher. Researchers simply record what they see. Margaret Mead utilized this type of observation when she researched an indigenous tribe in Papua New Guinea to discover whether differences between genders are culturally dependent or innate. Participant observation is a variant of natural observation, but the only difference is now the researcher joins in on the group to get a deeper understanding of the sample. Leon Festinger coined the theory cognitive dissonance, which states that a powerful motive to maintain cognitive consistency can give rise to irrational and sometimes maladaptive behavior. He proved the theory by using participant observation when he joined a religious cult believing that the world would end because of a flood, and subsequently studying their reaction when the flood did not happen. Pros and cons of quantitative method. Pros. Allows for a broader study. Allows for greater accuracy and objectivity of results. Research can be replicated and compared with similar studies. Personal bias can be avoided. Cons. May miss contextual detail. Inflexible process of discovery. Can lead to structural bias. Has the potential to yield laboratory results rather than real-world results. Numerical analysis cannot rightfully convey human perception. And that's it for my report. Please do watch out for my two other groupmates' reports. Thanks for watching.